Welcome to the first episode in the Force Power Description series. In this first installment, we will be covering one of the most basic uses of the Force: telekinesis. Telekinesis is a term for magical beings to manipulate objects with their minds, and has been seen throughout fictional media, with some characters using intrinsic variations of the power, such as Magneto's magnetic control. Within Star Wars, telekinesis is used by those who are known as trained Force sensitives or Force wielders. The most commonly seen and referred use of Force-based telekinesis is the infamous Force push. When a practitioner uses this ability, they will outstretch their hand and hurl an invisible amount of Force energy at their target, with the intent of disabling them by causing them to fly back. In some cases, the Force push can be charged up and become even more powerful when the caster takes a brief instant to gather their energies, as demonstrated by Satele Shan during the Republic's recapture of Alderaan. The Force pull is similar and essentially is intended for the practitioner to retrieve loose objects, most commonly being fallen lightsabers, but it can also be used to rip weapons from the grasp of dangerous enemies. A larger variation of the push is the Force wave and repulse. Both these abilities have a similar use, but one is essentially more powerful than the other. Both allow the practitioner to lash out in a full 360-degree angle upon all close-range targets, should the user become surrounded. When using the Force repulse, the practitioner will take a brief instant to internally gather their energies and lash out upon all close-range targets, but damage potential is significantly increased. Within the Force Unleashed 2 video game, the Starkiller clone is depicted using this ability to disintegrate large volleys of stormtroopers. However, this is more of a form of censorship, as within the novel, the repulse instead pulverizes his targets. A less commonly seen use of the power is the Saber Throw. This is rather straightforward. The user will throw their lightsaber towards their intended target, whilst guiding its trajectory with the Force. In some cases, a rare variation of Jedi who are considered to be astoundingly skilled with this ability were nicknamed Jedi Snipers, as noted in the Jedi Path. This manipulation of the lightsaber could also be taken to an extraordinary level, as can be seen by Darth Trey's ability to simultaneously manipulate 3 lightsabers at once against the Exile. Naturally, this ability could be applied to other thrown weapons and loose projectiles. Some Force users can also refine their control of the power to the point where they can manipulate objects solely with their mental control, allowing them to place both hands on their lightsabers and continue fighting, as demonstrated by Count Dooku against Anakin Skywalker on Naboo, and Darth Vader against Luke Skywalker on Bespin respectively. The more insidious uses of telekinesis typically fall under those who commit themselves to the dark side of the Force. The first application of this ability is the Force Crush. The practitioner will typically outstretch their hand and subsequently tighten their fist, to literally crush their desired target. This aggressive use of telekinesis has even been occasionally used by Jedi, although for them it is more of a crapshoot, as it can be all too easy to give in to their aggression. A variation of this ability is the Force Choke, within which the user will maintain their grip on their victim whilst pinching off the airflow and potentially snapping vertebrae, as described in the Book of the Sith. This power is noted within the same book as requiring more control than the basic push, but can also too be refined to some rather frightening levels, as demonstrated by Darth Vader's ability to choke out Admiral Ozzel whilst in a completely different room, along with victims being occasionally lifted off the ground and being rendered all but helpless. One of the most extreme instances of this power's use was demonstrated by Darth Sidious's ability to choke out Count Dooku from across the galaxy. The final variation of this power is the Force Wound, which is essentially and functionally identical to Force Choke, but instead of crushing their target's windpipe, the user will instead squeeze other internal organs. This isn't seen often, as it requires a great deal of refinement and precision to use effectively, should the user not wish to kill their target outright. The most obscure applications include the Force Maelstrom, Whirlwind, Scream, Levitation, and Water Orb. The Force Maelstrom is essentially a combined use of Force Wave and Force Lightning. During such application, the user will cocoon themselves within a Force barrier, whilst lashing out simultaneously with both lightning and telekinetic waves. The Whirlwind involves disrupting the air currents around a target and rendering them briefly immobile. Notable practitioners of this power include Exar Kun and Darth Malak. The Force Scream more or less allows the user to amplify their voice and turn it into a sonic weapon with deafening effects. this can be used for merely interrogation purposes or for scattering large groups of assailants. The levitation does exactly what it sounds like, in that it will allow the user to levitate themselves down from high vectors, essentially slowing their fall time to an absolute crawl. And the Force Water Orb was created by Jedi Master Kit Fisto, a member of the Nautolan race who sought to take advantage of his amphibious nature during the Battle of Mon Calamari. The orb was essentially a telekinetically reinforced bubble that would cause severe bludgeoning damage to the surface of whatever it strikes, acting as a solid object, which Fisto demonstrated when he used this ability during the Battle of Mon Calamari to destroy a cannon placement. And of course, there is indeed some defensive uses of telekinesis. The first is for the practitioner to manipulate objects with a reverse effect to the Saber Throw, in a sense redirecting the thrown projectile. One of the most extreme instances of this being Kylo Ren's ability to halt a fired blaster bolt in mid-flight. The second defensive application is referred to as the Force Barrier. The barrier allows their practitioner to put up a metaphysical wall or shield of Force energy to guard themselves from danger. This can be used to simply defend oneself from incoming projectiles, or even from incoming telekinetic attacks. All of these powers can be used with a considerable effect. However, the effect achieved comes largely from both practice and refinement of one's power, and of course the amount of power that the respective user possesses, which can lead to some rather subtle applications, or to some incredible mind-blowing showings on a phenomenal scale. Amongst the combative uses of the power, telekinesis is often used as a utility power, for clearing paths, along with constructing a lightsaber whilst in meditation, and for unlocking holocrons that contain hidden knowledge. So in conclusion, there are a tremendous variety of applications for the use of Force-based telekinesis, and its effects will reward those skilled enough to reap its benefits. Some notable practitioners of telekinesis within the mythos include Master Yoda, the Dark Lord of the Sith Darth Vader, Jedi Grandmaster Luke Skywalker, the Secret Apprentice Galen Marek, and the Jedi prodigies of the New Jedi Order, Dorsk 81 and Kip Duran. Well, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of the Force Power Description series. Join me next time when I'll be covering Force Valor. Until then, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I shall see you all in another video soon. Goodbye, and may the Force be with you.